What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
I am Iron Man.
You are a toy!
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
Server Anakin! I have the high ground!
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
I'm simply saying that life, finds a way.
Welcome back to the Big Movie Boys podcast, the only podcast that can convince you to try out Apple TV+. I'm your host, Jeremy Bauman, and with me as always is Bob Liebel.
What's up, everybody?
And Ben Stitch.
How's it going out there, boys and girls? Can you believe that it's already been 1 year since this little pandemic called COVID-19? I was thinking about it. In some ways, it feels like it's been like 1 year, and in other ways, it feels like it's been like 10 years. I just can't believe it's been 1 year since this all started. Since I call it Rudy Gobert Day, maybe think of it as Tom Hanks, but that's how I view it since that day, that infamous day.
Rudy Gobert Day, I've never heard, and that's fucking amazing. But yeah, you're right, Ben. Sometimes it feels like it's been 1 week, and then sometimes it feels like it's been 10 years. But holy fucking Christ, am I ready for it to hopefully be over?
I haven't been to a movie theater since February of last year. And that might have, when I saw Birds of Prey, that might have been the only movie I saw in a theater last year.
Wouldn't that have sucked if you died of COVID and that was the last movie you saw?
Yes, it would have. I would not have been proud of that one, but yeah, I don't know. Thinking back to this last year, what's more amazing? That COVID-19 still exists, or that the Big Movie Boys podcast still exists?
The latter.
I think it should just be our goal now to outlive COVID-19.
Nobody thought we could do it.
Especially
but
us
we
three.
will do it. We will do it.
That's a pretty wild one. Well, speaking of the Big Movie Boys podcast, that is what we are all listening to today. Probably going to be a little bit of a shorter one. We don't have too much on the docket. We are going to review Cherry, the new Russo Brothers movie that just dropped. But first, we're going to talk about the platform it dropped on, which, of course, is Apple TV+. As far as I know, none of us have really checked out Apple TV Plus prior to this. So my first question to you guys is, how did you watch this movie? Because I had a full boomer moment a week or two ago, and I Googled where to watch Apple TV Plus.
That's rough, Jer.
I watched mine on the Roku, so I downloaded the Apple TV Plus app. And I was in for a real surprise this morning. Turns out I have an Apple TV Plus account, and I've been paying for it for like a year. I went to start my free trial, and they're like, "Yeah, just do the sign-in thing." Like they sent a verification code to my phone. I signed in with my Apple account, and they're like, "You can't do the free trial." I was like, "What the fuck?" Because you already have an account. And I was just like, "What?" I've been paying for Apple TV Plus for who knows how long. I have no idea, but I was a little fucking pissed off to find that out this morning. So, yeah, I didn't even bat an eye at it. I was super hungover. Figured out how to get it on my Roku, and yeah, big surprise.
Yeah, I was the same as Bob. A little different. I haven't been paying for it for 10 years without realizing it. I just downloaded it onto my Roku. I have the free year from Sprint that I just have never used, so I use that. And I actually didn't mind the platform. I haven't watched anything else besides Cherry, so I haven't like fooled around with it. But like, I'm gonna watch Ted Lasso now. And I think, I don't know, it just seemed like sleek, and it's way better than Hulu, just off the top of it. It seems better than Disney Plus. Jerry, you probably messed around with it more, so you might have a stronger opinion on that. But I didn't mind it, just the like navigationally, basically.
Yeah, so I ended up watching it on Roku as well. After a quick little Google search, learned I could do that. And I haven't been paying for it for a year, but as I mentioned previously, I did prematurely start my free trial, so I am paying for a month of it. And I also had a 1 year free subscription when I bought my phone a year and a half ago that I never redeemed. So clearly nothing was convincing me to get on this platform until now. Since I've had it for 2 or 3 weeks at this point, I did watch Ted Lasso, which was pretty enjoyable. I wouldn't say, drop what you're doing and watch it, but Bob, I mean, you're already $100 into this platform. You might as well get a TV show out of it, right?
That's what I was just about to ask. I know Ted Lasso is the other kind of big draw in there. You were talking about you mentioned how sleek the platform has been, and and like what else is on there and stuff. I didn't even look. I literally downloaded it, found out I had the free trial. Cherry was the first thing that popped up. Pressed enter, watched the movie, turned off my TV. I did not
That's a clean way to do it.
Yeah, I did not even fucking didn't even look around at all. I don't even know what else is on it. I haven't even used the arrow key on my remote. Well, Apple TV Plus was open on my Roku. I just hit enter when it opened. I don't know. I really should see the good stuff that they have on there, and I should probably start watching it. I should get my money's worth.
There's not much, I feel like, just looking at it very quickly. There's a Bruce Springsteen documentary. Shout out to my dad on that one. But other than that, and Ted Lasso, I think there's like The Morning Show with Steve Carell, which didn't get like great reviews. And I think there's some other stuff, right? Captain America has a show on there, but it just doesn't seem like a lot of people are migrating to Apple TV Plus.
How long has it been out? Jeremy, do you know?
Since Jeremy got his phone a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it's been out for a while. Long enough that I had a 1-year free trial that I didn't redeem and it expired.
Dude, oh man. I gotta go look back at my like bank statements and figure out how long I've been fucking paying for this thing. I have a feeling it's been a while. It's fucking Christ, dude. I had no desire to get this. If this movie came out on Netflix, I would have been
You'd still be paying
fucking,
for it.
Yeah, true. But I would have been so much happier. Just the fact that I wanted to see this movie, and it's the only thing that got me to get Apple. I already had Apple TV Plus, but it would have been the only thing to make me get Apple TV Plus. It's just annoying, like that I had to seek this movie out. Apple TV Plus has got to be like a C tier streaming service. I feel like it's Netflix, Hulu. As much as it sucks, it's still a top tier streaming service. And then like Disney Plus.
Yeah, and HBO Max too is up there. Just
HBO
with
Max,
all of its movies.
I'd call that a B, almost an A. I think it's working its way up there to be a must-have. Apple TV Plus is not a must-have. This is free trial territory, like Jeremy's, where you get a free. Both of you guys had your 1-year free trial. That's the only reason anybody could have Apple TV Plus.
I was looking at the other movies that they have on there, and none of them were very highly rated. On the Rocks was one that we talked about, the trailer when it came out. I haven't even bothered to check that out yet. The only other thing I've heard that was good is that Billie Eilish documentary that's out now. But I'm not a huge fan of her music. I don't know that I would get too much out of that, so not sure that I'm actually going to check that one out. I will ask you guys. Oh, go
Jay,
ahead.
real quick, can I just mention the thing about those like musician documentaries? And I know I just mentioned the Bruce one. I'm sure that one's great. I just feel like they're mostly like an advertisement, and I can't get behind them. And I think I know like 2 Billie Eilish songs, so I couldn't actually watch that one.
I'll probably watch that if I'm being honest. I kind of like her. I also heard it was good, Jeremy. So there's a chance I check that one out. I probably will.
So obviously, Cherry, directed by the Russo brothers, very acclaimed directors already. Which of the following three do you think is the most impressive stat in their record? Directing a satisfying conclusion in the MCU in Endgame, having the highest grossing movie ever, or convincing people to check out Apple TV Plus.
It's obviously yeah, it's the last one because Jerry, you would at that point you would have watched it if me and Bob directed Endgame. You would have just went and saw it. So, like this is more impressive to me. This got all of us. This got Bob to realize he's paid $200 to Apple TV. So yeah. I think this is the biggest one.
Apple's been duping me for years, but Jeremy, I'll answer your question with another question. Did the Russo brothers have any other good movies besides? And we'll get to our opinions of Cherries. But besides Endgame and any MCU movies they did, do they have any good movies? What other movies have they directed?
They were mostly TV directors prior to MCU, and then they've produced a few movies like 21 Bridges and that Extraction movie. I don't know that they have too much else in their directorial credits.
But these guys are made for the rest of their lives just because of everything they did in the MCU. They're going to be famous directors, and people are going to watch their movies because they're involved with it.
In my defense, I would have watched Cherry regardless of the directors. I honestly didn't even know it was the Russo brothers until I think like last week. I didn't realize it was them who directed it.
All right, well, let's get into the movie itself. Cherry came out on March 12th, 2021. all of a sudden, all these, Google search engines, everything changed the date. Oh, now it comes out on March 12th. A couple weeks ago, it was coming out on March 3rd or whatever. Trying to screw me into, I think that was Apple trying to dupe me into paying for a year's worth of Apple TV Plus as well. As we mentioned, directed by the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe Russo, written by Angela Russo Otstadt, and Jessica Goldberg is the other writer. Based on the book by Nico Walker, which we'll get back to in a second. The movie stars Tom Holland, Ciara Bravo, Jack Reiner, Forrest Goodluck, among others.
What a great name that is.
That is a great name. I think his name in the movie is Joe Lightfoot as well.
James Lightfoot.
James Lightfoot, that's what it is.
Even cooler name.
This guy's full of cool names. As I mentioned, the book by Nico Walker. I only learned when putting this together that it is a semi-autobiographical book. And Ben, I know you read it. Do you have any thoughts on the book? I'm sure we'll compare and contrast a little bit more, but just on the book itself.
No, yeah, the book is really good. The way it's obviously his first novel. I think he wrote it while he was in prison, or at least started it while he was in prison. And the book, he has really quick sentences. It's like a really fast read because the sentences, kind of like how Tom Holland narrates in this. It's kind of quick, but it's even quicker in the book when you're reading it. It's just a really fast read, and it goes in a lot more different places. I think the movie does a better job of trying to make it like a more concise story, whereas the book does kind of just follow his life more. So I think it's pretty accurate to his life. I haven't like looked too deep into it, and I think the biggest difference is like he doesn't name any real names, and some of it's obviously like a stretch, but for the most part, I think this is pretty on par with what happened to him. I think obviously the story is a lot about him going to war. In the book, it's a lot longer. They stay over in Iraq. But yeah,
Wow.
But it was a really good book, and yeah, it's I think it's even obviously he lived and then wrote a book about it, and he doesn't seem like he'd be an author. Like you're watching the movie and you're like, how is this guy writing a book? But I think it's cool that he did decide to write this book because it was definitely an enjoyable read.
I didn't even think that this. I know you said semi-autobiographical, but like, I was watching this movie and I was like, how the fuck did somebody come up with this? Like, I wonder if this is based on true events. I thought that was going to flash on the screen at the end. Like, oh, based on true events, something like that. Holy fucking shit. What a story to happen to one human being.
So we'll keep it spoiler free. Obviously, brand new movie. We'll keep it spoiler free, at least at the beginning. We'll let you know when we move into spoilers. What are your guys' just general takes? I was looking at the scores on various sites. As of last night, it might have changed as more people watched it last night. But IMDb had it at a 6.1 out of 10, Metascore of 46, Letterboxd had it at a 2.7 out of 5, Rotten Tomato critic score of 39%, but an audience score of 77%. So it is all over the place as far as people's opinions on this movie, at least the people who watched it early or immediately as it came out on Friday. Where do you guys kind of land in the midst of all these scores?
That's shocking. That's truly shocking. I looked that up before too, Jeremy, and I was so excited for the movie. And I don't want to like look up, scores like that because it can change your view of the movie, I think. And it did for me. Like when the movie started, I was like, oh, it's not going to be that good. Like it was so hyped. It's not, or not hyped. It was so hyped for me that it's going to be a letdown. And it was the exact opposite. I thought it was fucking awesome. I mean, some truly, truly like amazing scenes in here. Tom Holland acts his fucking ass off in this movie. He got me emotional 6 or 7 times. I really, really liked it. And I'm confused. Maybe I just like have a bad critique of movies, or maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. I'm just shocked that it would have low scores because I thought it was really good. And I feel like Tom Holland was undeniably amazing in this role.
Yeah, I'm trying to put my thoughts together. Bob, I think you make some good points. To me, those scores kind of make sense, and especially like the fan one at the end. I don't think this is like the greatest movie if you look at it critically. Like, I don't think this could win an Oscar or anything. I think he could somehow win an Oscar. I think
he should win for Best Actor.
My biggest takeaway from this, like you guys, obviously, I'm not like the biggest MCU guy, so I didn't even watch the Spider-Man movies. I saw him play Spider-Man in the Avengers movies, but then seeing him in Double all the time and then this, I just feel like he's our generation's like Matt Damon. I just think he's going to be like a huge fucking star, and he's just going to be in our lives for the next 30 years. and like that's what that Metacritic score, the fan score or whatever, is showing me 77%. I don't think this is that great of a movie, but I just like I was captivated by his performance, and like he just does this like such a great job in this role, and like I buy him in like every role he does. Like in Double All the Time, he plays like he just transforms into these different characters, and I think he does a really good job. Yeah, I don't know if I'd watch this movie again, but like just his performance would be the only thing that would make me want to come back to it.
Yeah, I agree that I think the best part of this movie is Tom Holland and even Ciara Bravo as well, who I'm not familiar with at all. I thought she absolutely killed it as well. Overall, I definitely enjoyed it a lot. I'm certainly closer to the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes than I am the critic score. There were moments in this movie where it often felt like a Safdie Brothers movie more so than a Russo Brothers movie, which I thought was kind of interesting.
That's a good call.
It was a pair of brothers kind of poaching the style from a different pair of brothers, at least for a good portion of it, I thought. I thought the music was really good throughout it. It took me a little while to get into it. I think the first act maybe is the slowest, and I don't know. That's probably where I'd start cutting a little bit of time out of it, because I do think my biggest criticism of the movie is that it is pretty bloated. It's 2 hours, 20 minutes. I don't think it needs to be that long. They do try to do a lot in this movie, and I don't know that it always works out. I think it does work more than it doesn't. But I guess that would probably be my biggest criticism. Other than that, the only other like kind of big criticism I would have is that there's a lot of moments where it feels like they're just kind of making these artistic decisions for the sake of having some sort of artistic flair in it, and it ends up being more distracting than it does help the story in more than one instance.
I couldn't agree more on that point, Jeremy. There was more than you can count on two hands of those weird like camera work, and like I don't know, it was just exactly what you're saying. Like it was like trying to be artsy for the sake of being artsy, and it to me it just completely missed the mark. I was just like, I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Why did they just do that? Like that, it just stuck out, and I feel like they didn't need to have those like wannabe artsy moments in the movie. It was weird. It totally clashed, and I really it was strange. Especially, I think maybe my perception of the Russo brothers also adds to that, because I'm like, oh, they don't do that. I only know them from Endgame. Like, why would they do that in one of their movies? That's weird, you know. But yeah, I couldn't agree more on that point, Jeremy. It was those fake ass artsy moments were not doing it for me.
Yeah, I'll agree with you guys on that part too. Like where they kind of cut away from the movie just to show, basically trying to get into his head, but it doesn't feel like it is his head. And also, just I feel like they break the fourth wall very early, and then it feels like they don't come back to it. I know he narrates for the whole movie.
Yeah, but they don't do it for like an hour.
No,
there's
but
like a whole hour of the movie that's
that
factor is gone.
Yeah, like he breaks the fourth wall very early on when he's robbing the bank, and then I just felt like it never really happened again. Like he did it like twice, I think, and then it was just like the movie was over, and you're like, huh, why didn't they just follow through with that? I personally don't like when like TV shows or movies break the fourth wall. It takes me out of it a little bit, but if you're going to do it, at least kind of stick with it. And they did not stick with it, so that was probably my biggest overall complaint with like choices that they made. Overall, I think the story was good and the movie was solid, but I just think they could have, like you guys said, like they made decisions just to make it more artsy, and it kind of fell a little short for me.
Yeah, and Bob kind of brought it up already, but I was going into this movie, one of the things I was really interested in is like trying to learn what the Russo brothers style is outside of the MCU. They've established a pretty clear style inside the MCU. This clearly is a very different movie, so I was wondering how they were going to approach it. And maybe it's because there's two of them, but it felt at times like there were 3 or 4 different directors putting their stylistic flair on this movie at different times.
That's totally true. That's a good way to look at it too, because those artsy bullshit that stick out, the reason it clashes with the movie is because it just doesn't sort of fit the vibe. And there's like different types of things that they try to do, and it does sort of feel like it's coming from different directions, like in terms of 2 different people putting these things into the movie.
And there's times it works. It's odd. I think there's times that it works better, and
times.
There's times that it sticks out for sure.
Yeah.
And then I guess this will be the last point I bring up. spoiler free because I don't think it's much of a spoiler. We already talked about it a little bit already. The narration in this movie. I think if you go back to our Devil All the Time review, I was the one defending the narration in that movie. I am not going to defend it in this movie, and I was trying to figure out why exactly I didn't like it as much in this movie. And I think it might just come down to how much it's used, and I guess it kind of goes away towards like the second half of the movie. But for a long time in the first half of this movie, I was like, Tom Holland, shut up, dude. I'm trying to watch this movie. I feel like he doesn't stop talking for basically the entire first half.
And when you like, as someone who read the book, it kind of makes sense. You like, without him talking, they're not. You're like someone who read the book. They're like, oh, why aren't they mentioning that? Oh, this is because of that, or something like that. But if you're just, well, in my opinion, if you're gonna like make a movie based on a book, unless you're gonna, I just don't think you need the narration. It's people just assume people didn't read the book, and you don't need it. So it's like it feels like they're trying to appease the people who read the book a little to give them a little more stuff that happened in the book. But the people watching the movie who haven't read the book don't need it because it's like, well, okay, I didn't know that even existed. So to me, it just kind of feels like don't do it at all, especially in this movie. I think Double All the Time, you kind of needed it more because it was more like background to kind of fill in some gaps. But this was just more to like appease the people who read the book.
See, I didn't like the narration, and I thought it would have been better without it. But it didn't like ruin the movie for me. Like I didn't hate it. I just thought the movie would have been better without it. And it is at times, Jeremy, like you mentioned, it can be distracting because he's like almost feels like he's talking over a scene. But it was weird when they decided to use it, when they didn't, and I just think that if you just left that out entirely, the movie only gets better.
Yeah, I think that's where I am too. I didn't like when the movie opens with him narrating. I was fine with it, and then I don't know. The more and more he just kept going on, and it felt like the narration was in place of like good visuals at times, and then there's other times where, like Bob said, it distracts from what's happening on the screen. So, like I said, I defended it in Devil All the Time. I felt it was, I don't know, better used in Devil All the Time, whatever that means exactly. But do you guys have any more spoiler-free points you want to make? Do we all agree that this is worth checking out? I think we have kind of implied that, if not saying it directly.
Ooh, I don't know, man. I actually feel like unless this movie like grows a lot in popularity, and I have a feeling this is gonna be the type of movie that becomes like not a cult classic, but it's gonna be one of those movies where it's like, how did that get such low scores or whatever? Or like this movie would have like underperformed at the box office if it came out in a non-pandemic era. But saying that you should check it out, I don't know. I feel like if you have a free trial of Apple TV Plus, yeah, go for it. Go do it. But to seek this out, I don't know. I almost feel like you might be able to miss this one unless you really like Tom Holland or you really want to see the movie. But in that case, you're gonna watch it anyway. If you're on the fence, maybe you can miss it.
I think I disagree with Bob a little bit, just because I think, to me, I don't watch a lot of war movies. Like this is like an Iraq war movie, where it's not just all about the action. It kind of shows the repercussions of like America's decision to go to war, and we can get more into that when we get more into spoilers. But like just overall, like it kind of shows you like how there's so many like it's like it basically becomes like an addiction movie, and I just think it's really it does a good job with like showing like the failures of our government when people come back from war. And it's just weird, like this movie we're talking about, and no one would even think about that. You'd have to watch the movie to even know that or read the book. But
Yeah,
that's what
this
it kind of
movie
comes
is
down
a
to.
coming of age movie, a war movie, an addiction movie. Like
Yeah,
like I said, they do a lot.
It's like 4 different movies in one, and I think it's worth it to check it out because it does do some commentary on some real world issues that like are at play, and that if I wouldn't have watched it or read this book, I kind of just would ignore. Like I understand PTSD happens, but I don't really. Even when I watch a war movie, I'm not like, oh, I get it. Like you kind of put yourselves in his shoes, and I think you kind of learn and grow a little bit from watching this movie. So I would say figure out if you have Apple TV Plus, if you've been paying for it for 2 years. If not, do the free trial for a week, watch this movie, watch Ted Lasso, and then get rid of it.
I think I'll go the heaviest in favor of this movie than either of you guys. Apple TV Plus is $4.99 for a month, even if you don't have a free trial, if you burned that a while ago. consider it a $5 rental for this movie, I think it's well worth the price. I would have seen this movie in theaters in, non-apocalyptic times if it were coming out in a theater, and I would not have felt bad paying $10 to $12 for a movie ticket for it either. So I definitely think it's worth watching. I'm not going to say it's the greatest movie ever. I'm not going to give it as low of a score as the Rotten Tomatoes critics scores here, but I think it was definitely worth watching for sure. I think there's a lot there. With that being said, we will move into spoilers. If we have convinced you to watch the movie, go ahead, pause the podcast. We'll be waiting for you when you come back. If you're still not sure, if you don't care about spoilers, or if you've seen it already, we'll just get into our discussion. Do you guys want to take it kind of chunk by chunk? Because as I said, it does kind of break out from a coming-of-age movie to a war movie to a drug addiction movie. We tackle the beginning here, the coming-of-age story. What did you guys think of kind of parts, the prologue and part one of this movie?
I liked it. It was a good. I don't know. It really established the characters. There's probably, I think we mentioned it earlier, this is the part where I feel like you could cut the most stuff from it, because at the end of the day, I mean, it shows how Sierra Brown and Tom met. And I don't know, do you guys buy their like relationship? Like, what do you think about that? How like invested are you in them as a couple in this movie? Because I, by the end, was pretty into them, and I think most of that setup comes from kind of this beginning coming of age part.
Felt a little quick at first, I think, but I think the more time you spend with them, and just I think the chemistry between Tom Holland and Sierra Bravo was pretty on point. So I don't know if the story itself necessarily justified it in how quick. I don't know. I'm kind of riding both sides of the fence here, because I said you could. It took a long time, and you could cut parts of this out, but I also feel like it was kind of quick. But then, yeah, as you spend more time with them, I just think that the actors' chemistry convinces you that they are in love.
Yeah, and I believe it just because, like, I don't know, they're in college. I just think you kind of fall in love fast in college, especially if you're doing drugs more so with these people. But I believe in the fact that, like, they're in school and Tom Holland's like, just they're both like feeling young love, and they fell hard and fast. I believe that it could be that quick, and I think they do have a good chemistry. My only take, like, I'm gonna be that person this whole podcast, but in the book, like, he has like 4 different girlfriends. This is like the main one, but like they don't stay together the whole time. They break up a bunch, and like he's with multiple girls, and then they end up together in the end. But it's not like,
Interesting.
yeah, it's that's why it was kind of felt like weird that they stayed together the whole time. But in the end, like it's all right that they cut the other stuff. If you're gonna make a movie based on a book, if you stick to the book, it's gonna end up being like 5-6 hours long. So you need to make decisions there, and I think that was an all right one, because this, at the end of the day, I think her name's Emily in the movie. Like, she's the one that he like wants to be with the most. So it made sense that they cut the other things out. I guess I want to comment on like just the first part too, though. This was the part, I don't know, maybe you guys disagree, but this is the part I almost related to most. We weren't out like smoking weed and like being total pieces of shit, but we were out, like, we would drive around just being pieces of shit,
Yeah.
drinking in basements and stuff. This is there's a world where like if we were like older in 2003 and we're like, what am I doing with my life? And like 9/11 happens, we might be like, let's join the war. Like, I feel like there's a world where we end up like Tom Holland. So that's the part that I almost related to the most.
I totally agree. Their entire thing, and even like the way they were like in class, like in college and stuff, like is like, I'm assuming they're like freshmen, but yeah, that was relatable. I don't know if just because like that part of my life was so recently, but I totally, as I was watching it, I was like, okay, like I could see this happening to myself.
Yeah, Jeremy, you almost joined the military after seeing American Sniper, so I can only imagine if 9/11 happened and you weren't 5 years old, you would have maybe joined the military.
Yeah, I guess if American Sniper had also come out at the same time, then you could basically, yeah, consider it done. And then I probably would have been like Tom Holland 6 months later and saying, I hate it here, I want to go home. But yeah, his first spoken lines in the movie are, I'm 23 years old and I still don't know what people do. And I was like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, brother, me too.
I felt that one for sure. Unless you guys have anything else you want to move on to, basically, from
Let's
the
go to
coming
war.
of age, we go to war. And I agree, Ben. It's a different kind of war movie. I was almost expecting more action, just giving the Russo brothers' history in the MCU. There's like
Same.
one action scene, I guess you could call it, and it did look really good. But it wasn't about the action in that moment. It was all about Tom Holland's experience, in combat as a medic.
Yeah, this is also I could be wrong, but I feel like this is the section of the movie, like the boot camp section. I feel like is where we saw the most weird artsy things. I feel like a lot are flashing back to me right now, like the thing where they're like little babies going down the steps, but they have like the big uniforms on. Like anytime they do like the flashbacks with like the boot camp officers and stuff, it was just weird. There was a lot of that, and like even like the structure of the boot camp and how like ridiculously like mean these fucking psycho drill instructors were. It was like odd. I feel like I don't know. Since he was telling us that, I feel like it was like an exaggeration. Like that was less happening like in real life, more of like his exaggeration and like a projection of his thoughts, like him telling the story, and that's why you got those weird artsy things. Maybe that's what they were going for. At least that's what I picked up on. But yeah,
Bob, did you like at least their artsy decision to show basically up Tom Holland's asshole? I like that
yeah,
part.
that was a little weird. That was not. I
Looking
could have
out
went
of
without that.
Tom Holland's asshole
Yeah,
at the doctor.
Yeah, that was an odd decision.
Yeah, and that whole boot camp scene is the aspect ratio is some really weird, like old timey projector looking ratio. I don't even know what it was, but it was definitely a stylistic decision. But yeah, I think Ben kind of nailed it earlier when he was talking about all the war scenes where it is not an action movie in this point. When we get to the war movie section, it is all about uh, kind of the impact of war, especially on a young. What is he, like 19 years old at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he's a medic, so he's the one in charge of running after the people whose guts are spilling out and having to put them back in and try to save them. So I definitely think they nailed that part of it for sure.
And I think they even go more in depth. Like, obviously, reading the book, there's more scenes like to show just how traumatic it was. They kind of just use that one scene where the guy's guts, and that's all it would take for me is just that one thing, and then I would be traumatized for the rest of my life. But there's even more, and they show the scene obviously where his friends get blown up and running over a landmine. So there's two scenes I think showing how traumatic it is. But yeah, in the book there's more, but I think they also do a good job of showing like that one part like before his friends die is being like, hey, sergeant or captain, whatever it is, like, hey, don't do this, don't go through here, we got our truck stuck here last time. And just how like masculine war was, especially even more at this time. Like it doesn't listen to Tom Holland, thinks he's just like an idiot, gets stuck, and then Tom Holland's like, don't do this because you'll get make it more fucked up, doesn't listen to him again. And then that almost leads to his friends getting killed. Basically, that's what you're supposed to assume then. And it's just like that's really tough to watch. It's just like he wasn't listened to, and if he was listened to, his best friend from war might still be alive today.
I thought Tom Holland was gonna fuck up that his commander after that. Like once they blew up, I thought he was gonna be like, you, because it was basically that guy's fault. If he had just, you're right, Ben. If he listened to Tom Holland, his fucking friend would still be alive. I really thought he was gonna turn around and beat the shit out of him.
And I think the other reason that scene in particular is so impactful is one of the Russo brothers' biggest strengths that was shown in Infinity War and Endgame, mostly Infinity War, I guess, was how surgically they are able to introduce characters and like you immediately know who this person is, and then you can very quickly understand the relationships between these characters. Because I felt like they didn't spend a lot of time kind of introducing the side characters in the war part, like Tom Holland's friend from war, the douchebag commanding officer and everything like that, but you get it immediately. And then when his
Right.
friend does die, you feel that impact as well. But he didn't. I mean, how much screen time does that guy get before that?
No, that's a good point.
Minute and a half.
They use that one minor scene of them just both chilling in their beds talking about it, and like you see like they're just joking around at first, and then it's Tom Holland being like, I want to go home, I hate it here, and you just see him open up and you realize these two are like their closest friends over here. They're the only two people that they have basically.
And that's all it takes. And that is a good point, Jeremy. Yeah, you immediately know what these people are about, and with so little screen time, I'm already invested in that guy's death.
Real quick, I think they do a good job like compressing this part of the book into the movie. My biggest complaint about it is like in the book he's also doing drugs over here too. Like he's just getting high.
Oh,
He's not doing like heroin, but he is like they're finding weed, they're finding pills. He's finding basically any way to get high over there because he hates it over there too. And like that I think that would have led more into the rest of the movie too. I think you're supposed to almost think when he gets back that's why he started doing drugs, but he was doing drugs over there too, like while he was in war.
I like the PTSD giving him the drug addiction more. I think if he was doing drugs over there, it'd be like less impactful. I like the way they went as like the difference from the book there. I think this is a good one.
Well, we do get into the drug addiction portion of the movie next. Ben, I think what you said fills in some holes I felt might have been in the movie itself. It did feel a little. It felt like the introduction of drugs to full-blown drug addiction happened pretty quickly. That would be like kind of my only slight criticism. Maybe it wouldn't feel that way on a rewatch, but watching it the first time through, that's how it felt. And also, this is the portion of the movie, pretty significant as far as runtime goes, portion of the movie that felt most like the Safdie brothers directed it.
Mm.
Maybe it felt a lot like Good Time.
When he's on drugs and they're like doing the different camera angles, and that's where I think Tom Holland's best acting is. I'm like, even more so, I guess, when he did Ecstasy early on in the movie. But like he just when he's on these drugs, I'm like, did they actually give him heroin? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I agree. He does act like he's high very well. So I don't know if that's something he would be offended by or feel complimented by, but I really like I said, it feels like a Safdie brothers movie, and I think they do the best parts of like what Good Time does, where it's just someone who makes a bad decision and then gets in over their head, and it's a spiral out of control from there on out. And I think they executed it very well.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard for us to put ourselves in the shoes of a heroin addict. Like, I don't know what he's actually going through. I don't know how desperate they are for drugs. I think the best scene that does it is when Pills and Coke tells them to get the safe or whatever,
Yep.
and then they decide to break into the safe, and you kind of feel their panic, and then Coke is knocking on the door saying cops or whatever, and they're just so high, and they're obviously just addicts. They're tweaking, and they're like, oh my god, we have to dump all these pills, and it's like you like feel their like panic, and like that. I think that's the scene that does it the best of putting you in their shoes, and like what would you do, like how are you reacting to this, and you're kind of like fuck, like what do I do? Like I think they do that scene the best
That's
out of
also
all the
where
scenes with drugs.
that's also where I think Sierra Bravo probably has her best
Yeah.
has her best moment in the movie as well.
Yeah, that scene is fucking sweet, but it does totally show because like that's so stupid, right? Why would you take that guy's safe? Why would you then break into it? But I love the part where Sierra Bravo's like, oh, this heroin sucks. The good stuff's probably in here. And instead of like taking a second and thinking, why would we break this safe open? This is obviously something that's important. I have to give this back. This guy's gonna come for it. What am I gonna say when the safe's broken? They're just like, oh yeah, there's heroin in there. Let's get the heroin, you know? And like, even when it's broken, when it's over and it's kind of like, oh shit, they don't even care. They're just like, when's the next?
As long as they get high.
Exactly. And that really shows their desperation pretty well. Like that really paints a pretty vivid picture of what the lengths these people are willing to go for to get heroin.
And I think it's even before he gets full on like heroin addicted. Like they show him going to a therapist, and he's basically just getting pushed around by these therapists. Like no one actually wants to help. And I think it's before like people even knew how to help veterans, but it just kind of shows like that, yeah, go to war, do our dirty work or whatever, but then we don't give a shit about you when you come back. And like if you become a drug addict, it's like who cares, as long like just stay out of our lives. So I think that's the toughest part. And even like the girlfriend, that's my biggest complaint with the person, like Emily herself. I get why Tom Holland wants to be a drug addict. Like he just wants to forget all those things. Whereas she is just annoyed with Tom Holland, so she's like, "Fuck it, I'll start doing drugs too." Just break up with them. I don't feel bad for her become addicted to drugs because no reason at the end of the day besides she just basically felt left out.
I think it's because she's supposed to be like so in love with him that
she just
like,
wants
doesn't want him to do it alone or something. I don't know. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
So eventually we get to the bank robbing scenes, which I think are really enjoyable. Like they border on like funny. Like obviously it's a very serious moment in the movie, but the execution of it all, Tom Holland being like the most polite bank robber ever, always kind of made me smile.
Yeah, it's funny to me, like how even the first one where he just like, I have a gun, this is a robbery. Like I just think that's so funny how like I like seeing bank robberies done in different ways because like every movie that has one, it feels very similar. But this movie, they do a very funny job of him, like, and he doesn't even like care to give himself a disguise. He's just like fuck it, and he's like so polite and like, oh, always go to a woman and just be polite. They're just having a normal day. They don't care. It's not their money. I just think it was. It makes me think I can go down the street and rob a bank, and I might give it a shot.
Yeah, as long as you're funny when you do it and polite to the tellers, you'll be fine. But no, he totally like gave me some like Spider-Man vibes in like those scenes because he was funny, like like he's a
Friendly
funny guy.
neighborhood bank robber.
Yeah, he's like he's very like enjoyable to watch on screen, and people like him, and like he just felt like that was his Peter Parker character, like the way he was talking and kind of like his like mannerisms. I don't know, I really liked those scenes. Jeremy mentioned that they made you smile. They definitely made me smile as well. It's just a little unbelievable how many fucking banks this guy robbed, and I love the part when he comes back to his house with Sierra Bravo, and he's like, "Hey, babe, how you doing? Yeah, got some cash. Just went to work and broke into another they're fucking robbed another bank." Like it's so nonchalant. And it was like, if this guy robbed every bank in his town, how have they not caught him? Like, is there up security at the banks if he's doing it as frequently as it's perceived in the movie? How the fuck has this guy not been caught yet?
I could be remembering wrong, but I think in the book he actually does disguise his face. I'm not too positive on that, and I don't know how he doesn't get caught. I guess I'm going to assume he robs like 10 banks, 10 to 15 banks, and they're in downtown Cleveland. There's got to be like hundreds of banks and like a lot of small banks. They even say in the movie like they name the one shitty bank because they're just not. I guess that was a creative decision too, just to call it a shitty bank. But I think that's the idea. He's just robbing small town, like he's like robbing credit unions. He's just doing small banks. He's not going into like these big Bank of Americas and holding up like 10 tellers. It's like one or two teller banks.
Did you guys like the generic names they gave everything? The first bank is called the Bank. There's a shitty bank.
Sergeant whomever, I think, and then
Dr.
therapist was
whoever.
Doctor whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
didn't mind
also
it.
like his patch, like just said like soldier and stuff, like
Right.
didn't have his name on it. I don't know how I feel about that. That I don't know if that falls under like what we were mentioning earlier, that artsy for the sake of being artsy. I don't know. I'm kind of impartial on it. I noticed it. I was just like, oh, I wonder why it's like that, and I feel like I didn't get an answer.
I think it was just supposed to like point out like who really gives a shit. Like all these people are the same. All these banks are the same. It doesn't matter.
I think that makes sense. I was kind of back and forth on it, but I like the point you brought up there, Ben. Also, I think in the drug section is where we see the most of young Tony Soprano. Did that get a pop from you, Bob?
Oh, dude, I fucking stood out of my goddamn seat. So I don't believe he's acted in almost anything. This is like one of his first roles, and obviously he's cast as his father's iconic role in the upcoming Many Saints of Newark movie. I've never seen him do anything before. I've never seen him act at all. So when I found out he was in this movie, I was very, very excited because I wanted to see, I want to see how he did. How he did. Is he good? Is he going to be like a good actor like his father? And I don't know. What do you guys think of his performance? I thought it was pretty good. He's playing an interesting character.
I thought he was all right. For me, I didn't know who he was, and I was watching this with my girlfriend, and she goes, "Is that the guy from Stranger Things' his brother?" Because he does look like I don't even know his name in Stranger Things anymore, but I think his name's Gaten something in real life. And I'm like, oh shit, it does kind of look like him.
No, different famous family member, the fucking goat, Tony Soprano.
I like when he says, "You want me to punch that guy in the dick for you?" That's a good line.
He looks a lot like James Gandolfini. He looks just like his dad. Like he looks like, I mean, he is basically a younger version of him. He's his fucking son.
That's
but he
how
looks
genetics work, Bob.
but he really looks the part. And seeing him this first time I've seen him act got me more excited for the Many Saints of Newark when he's going to have a bigger role and it's going to be a huge movie. So that was good. Good fun.
What did you guys think of the prologue, or sorry, the epilogue? Obviously, well, first there's that scene where it looks like he's trying to OD and kill himself after the failed robbery, or actually successful robbery, but one he pays off Black with.
Is that
Yeah.
when does
you're
he...
talking about the jail time?
Well, right before he goes to jail, like the last
Oh.
scene before the epilogue.
I think that shows why he can't get. He was literally trying to get caught, and he could have very easily gotten away. So I don't know if that just shows how stupid fucking cops are or something. So my point about I don't know how he hasn't been caught yet. That kind of shows it. He had to try to get caught to even get caught. And I thought he was also trying to kill himself, and I almost wished that he did, because how sick of an ending would that have been if he just ODs right there in the middle of the fucking street and it's over.
Love me some suicide. Yeah, great point, Bob. No, I differ from you guys that I didn't think he was trying to get OD at the end. I thought he just wanted like one last high before he was like going to jail.
It looked like he was like his eyes were rolling in the back of his head. It looked like he was going for it there.
Yeah,
incredible fucking acting.
I guess I've never OD'd, so I don't actually know for sure. But this is my biggest complaint from, I love being this person. Let's keep doing movies where I've read the book so I can be this asshole. In the book, he does not go to jail. He does not get caught. They don't show it. It just kind of ends. And I wish it would have kind of ended like that, with him just like robbing another bank and getting high. And he just kind of like is just going on in this endless way, and you don't know like how is he going to fix it. Whereas like in the movie, obviously he goes to prison, kind of cleans himself up, and then he sees his girlfriend at the end. I don't even think he's with that girl at the he's with the girl at the end of the book, but like, and also he didn't get her into drugs. I should have said that. She was like already into drugs when he got back, like, so they both were like, oh cool, let's both do drugs together. So like he wasn't the reason she started doing drugs in the book. But also in this movie, like, yeah, they don't, I just feel like they shouldn't end up together. They're like toxic for each other. I don't want them to be together. Maybe that's their way of showing like life is gonna, like, the shitty cycle might continue. But yeah, I didn't like it ending with him going to jail. I wanted him to like just end it being like, okay, let's get high again, and this almost kind of ends like the book. Like that's, it bothered me the most. I was like, this did not happen. Like the whole time, I was just bummed because I was like, this did not happen.
He wrote the book in jail, but in the book he doesn't go to jail.
No, he just ends it like before he does not get arrested. And yeah, so yeah, you obviously you read, like he did go to jail then. I think it might even say it in like the afterword or whatever, but it's not in the epilogue. It's not like this. I don't even think they mention he goes to jail in the book. I think I might have even had to look it up, like when he went to jail. But for this movie, I kind of get it. You need to play it more concise, and it needs more of a plot. But that was just my takeaway from watching it.
I liked it. I liked the short redemptive arc at the end. I like the the biggest takeaway from the movie. No matter how much you fuck up, one day you might be portrayed by Tom Holland in a movie. What more could you want? I think that's a good lesson to end on.
The ending gets me like, maybe just because I was so invested in these characters' lives, but the ending just got me nervous. I was just like, oh fuck, I really hope they don't start doing drugs again, because it's just like a happy ending, and you're like, oh great, but then like the rest of the movie has been so unhappy, so you just like, it's odd to see it end happy, and it just makes me think, oh my fucking god, if they make a Cherry 2, they're gonna be fucked up again.
Yeah. I think you're just supposed to assume he's grown a mustache. He's changed his life. You're good.
That's the fake.
Once you grow a mustache.
Yeah. That looks horrible, because he can't grow facial hair. Obviously, they show it in the movie, like he has a little fuzz. But that mustache is not a good fake mustache. It doesn't look good.
They should not have done the mustache.
Did they also?
It looks horrendous.
Did they also deepen his voice for the one line he has in the epilogue?
It sounded like it.
It's like full on Batman.
Yeah, that was a little off-putting.
So he's supposed to be, what was he in jail from 2007 to 2021? That's supposed to make him
I think he's there for like 5 years.
Oh,
5 or 6 years.
The time card said 2007 to 2021.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. So he would look way different. And so would Sierra Bravo. Sierra Bravo doesn't look any old. They should have given her gray hair.
I think they tried to, and it just like
she's still
like a 20-year-old
16 girl at the end of the movie.
I had to
She looks perpetually young. She's just
to do one of
not
those checks
the right age
that we like to do, where I'm like, obviously I knew Tom Holland wasn't like 10 years older than her, but I was like, what's the age difference on these two? Because I thought she was like 16, but no, he's 1 year older. Now he's 24, she's 23, but I'm guessing filming it was like 23, 22 or 22, 21. But
Dude,
Yeah, it makes sense.
she looks way too young for me in this movie. Like, because I saw her on Big Time Rush on Nickelodeon when I was in like middle school, and she doesn't look that much different. Her face is exact. She's like taller. That's it. She just looks taller. So whenever I see her character, I'm like, yeah, it's like an 8-year-old girl. But it's just like weird. She just looks like not the right age. She looks way too young, and she's obviously in her 20s now. She's gonna look that way the rest of her life. I don't know what kind of roles this girl gets going forward. She can only play like this type of character, like this college age kid. Not even. She'd be great in like a high schooler. She could probably play a high schooler until she's 30.
Well, that's what Tom Holland's doing. Spider-Man's still in high school, so maybe she'll show up in the next Spider-Man movie.
He also looks perpetually young. Like,
Yeah, I didn't. While watching this, my girlfriend goes, because I am the same age as Tom Holland, and she had the nerve to say, "Do you feel shitty about yourself because Tom Holland's your age and he's a great
Yes.
actor?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's just fucking rude. I'm like, I guess, yeah, but now that you pointed it out, I'm gonna go fucking do some heroin. But no, yeah, it was a bummer.
Wait till we get older and we're like 30. It's like, can you believe somebody 10 years younger than me is this much more successful?
I see it more with like athletes. When I see Zion, who's like 19, like fucking do what he does compared to me just drinking and doing a podcast with my two asshole friends.
What's harder though? Seriously, being a professional athlete or this podcast?
That's a good point.
Well, do you guys have any final thoughts on Cherry? I think what I'll end on is I just hope one day Tom Holland can star in a movie where everything goes right and he just has a good old time and a happy life. Because this dude's been getting shit on in every movie he's been in lately.
My final thoughts are that I think Tom Holland should be nominated for an Oscar because I think his performance is absolutely fucking incredible in this movie. He might have now taken the crown from another famous Tom Hardy, my former favorite actor. I think that Tom Holland is my new favorite actor after watching this movie. It's really fucking cool. I know I mentioned earlier that, you can probably miss this one. I have a feeling this movie is going to take off. The internet's going to work its magic, and this movie's going to become bigger. And I think this is a future like cult classic type of movie.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off that, like I said earlier, I think Tom Holland's going to be like our version of a Matt Damon, where we're just going to grow up with him, and like I think he's just going to be an actor who's always in our lives, and I'm excited to watch. Like I think he's going to be a person I look forward to like every movie he comes out, especially if it's not a Marvel movie where he doesn't have to play a 16-year-old spider person. But other than that, let me just point out one more nitpick. I don't think Pills and Coke died in the book unless I'm really forgetting it. So that scene just was made up.
His name is really Pills and Coke.
Yeah, his
That's
nickname.
so funny.
He's Pills and Coke, dude. But I don't think he died in the book unless I'm like, I know I read it in January, but I'm like, shit, did that happen? I don't remember that happening. But now that's my last nitpick.
Neither does
overall.
the movie. He just dies. We don't know how he got shot.
Yeah, and no repercussions. But it was a good movie. I think it's worth the watch. Anything just Tom Holland related, I'm looking forward to it now. And Jeremy, good point, pointing out that it's like if you don't want to get Apple TV Plus, it's like it's just a $5 rental for a pretty good movie at a time when there's not really anything going on.
Yeah, and of all the movies that came out this year, I'd probably put this up there as probably the second best so far.
I still think Devil All the Time was better than this movie. What's your opinions on that?
I agree.
Yeah, I would probably agree as well. I think
That could just because friend of the show Robert Pattinson was in it. If he was in this movie, Lord only knows. If he was Pills and Coke.
If Rob Pat was Pills and Coke. That guy, that Pills and Coke, the actor that plays him, he's also the dickhead boyfriend in Midsummer. And that guy just has the most punchable face in the world.
He really does.
He's just only going to play annoying dickheads in movies.
Perfect casting there. If you can't get Robert Pattinson for that role, you got to reach out to that guy.
All right, well, that'll do it for this week. Next week, boy, oh boy, do we have a big one for you. Zack Snyder's Justice League coming out HBO Max. It's roughly 4.5 hours. How excited are you guys?
What the fucking shit?
All right, just you guys know how I watch movies. This podcast might be delayed because I might still be watching this movie in episodic form.
Holy fuck, dude! I'm not excited for that in the slightest bit.
It might be closer to 4, maybe not 4.5. So hopefully,
God, can we watch Lord of the Rings again?
why would we do that? The new Lord of the Rings is here, Bob. and its name is Justice League. I'm pretty excited about that. It sounds like we all are. Well, while we wait for that, thank you for listening, and remember, it'd have to be a pretty fucked up tree for me not to like it. We'll see you next week.